So welcome back to another day in the life of an OBM. I'm here with my OBM today, Tovi Vider. She's been our OBM, I think, for the last 5 years, 4 years.
I think it's 4. It was like right as COVID was hitting.
Right. All right. So for a while, but Tovi and I, our relationship goes way, way, way back. Even before I started scaling my own agency back in, I would say like 2012, 2013-ish. So I'm really excited to have her on today because we're going to be sharing with you what a day looks like of her in my business and some of the things that she helps me do. So welcome, Tovi, to today's Day in the Life. Do you have anything to add to who you are and what you do on our team here?
I'm sure we'll get to all of it. There's quite a bit.
Okay, so let's get right on into it then. So let's rewind back to I think 2014, let's say. You and I were working, was it? I mean, it doesn't need to be exact.
It was earlier. It was earlier because my youngest was like 2.
Wow, okay. So yeah.
And he's 14 now. So
2012-ish.
Yeah.
You and I were working on the same team. I was the OBM and you were the VA.
I was actually the VA for him before he was ready to scale for an OBM. And I remember him telling me, the business is growing. I need a manager in here. I have 2 options. There's one person who's like, this is what she does. This is what she studied. And then there's one who's like, she's a VA who does some management stuff. And I said, go with the one who has put the investment in and who, this is what she does. And that's when you came onto the team. And then ironically, because the person we were working for is in America and both of us are in Israel. So that was just like a fun bonus to be in the same time.
Exactly. And to be able to it was really great.
Yeah.
So we had that client in common. And I think, through that experience, I really got to know what your skill set was like. And I think it was even obvious to me back then that you had the OBM potential and that was way more your fit. Like most VAs when you start, there was a little bit of social media, content creation and scheduling. And the fun thing about that client was that he was running an agency. So we had a lot of different marketing projects going on that I was responsible for managing and you were responsible for implementing bits and pieces here and there. So that happened. We had that amazing experience together. And then we kind of both went our separate ways. There was a period of time where my agency continued growing. And then at some point, I made the decision to get rid of that client. I mean, we worked together, I think it might have been 3 or 4 years, but then at some point it was time to part ways. But you and I kept in touch. And then many, many years later, here we are again.
Actually, we kept in touch because every time that client came to Israel, we would all go out for dinner.
Right.
So we kept in touch that way. And then when you were doing your thing going into the agency, I was going into the corporate world. At that time. And I think we had stayed in touch. And then when I was climbing that corporate ladder and I was up into the team leadership stuff, I had actually reached out to you for coaching on leadership.
Right. I forgot about that.
Yes. And I was still in corporate and I just said, I have a lot of these limiting beliefs and I'm not really sure how to lead a team. And I know how to do it in terms of the logistical stuff, but my personality just wasn't there. So we had spoken while I was still in corporate. And then we started talking again about all of that. And then that fateful day when you reached out and said, I need a right-hand woman.
I know. I mean, there comes, I think, a point in everyone's business. We had OBMs on our team. We had VAs on our team, but I really needed somebody who could be the OBM of my business instead of, the OBMs that I was hiring that were managing other people's businesses. And because we're both in Israel, we have that same time zone. And I knew that I could bring you on as an employee. I was like, this could be great because I know how you work, Tovi, and I think I made the best decision in retrospect, but it was interesting because it's always an evolution, right? I think that's what I've come to understand. And I think it's a karmic evolution as well, because how incredible was it that we kind of crossed paths again and that we came into each other's lives in that way? Because I can't imagine my life any other way. I know I'm getting really cheesy. I hope I don't cry on today's day.
It really has been. And like, also, I had been in this mindset of like, the kids were older. I needed to be like the sole provider on a lot of levels. And before COVID, the only way to do that was really to be climbing that corporate ladder. And I didn't even think about whether or not I wanted to. It was just, this is what you have to do. And then, when COVID hit and you reached out, and I was like, I am so done with
Putting
that
clothes
whole
and going in.
world.
I guess you weren't really going into the office.
I wasn't going into the office because everything had moved remote, but it was pretty messy. And I was just, I would have probably stuck it out because that's my personality. But, there was another option.
We need to make money and put food on the table. So that's as well. So I don't think it's just your personality. I think it's like the reality of life that we live in, that it's this catch-22 where, you can't really, make a change because you have to make money. And so it just continues in this gridlock of,
Right. I mean, I think a lot of people during that time were laid off, and then it forced them. My company also laid off quite a few people. It was just a really uncertain time, and I was one of the lucky ones that stayed. So it was never in my mind to even look for anything else. And then I believe we had maybe like 4 conversations before I made any kind of decision.
Right.
Yeah. That was a big jump, and I have not looked back.
No.
One of the things I didn't realize, I think, when the kids got older and I was, okay, I can hire a babysitter and I can, travel and all these things. I think one of the things I didn't realize now until I'm back at home full time, besides for our planning sessions, is that my kids still really need me. They're all teenagers. But like, they really, really need a parent at home. If it couldn't happen, we would have all managed. But like just the other day, my daughter, who's 16, said to me, I had come up to meet you for our strategy session. When I got back, she said, I didn't realize how like, I just always assume you're around and available. She was like, I'm so lucky. And I was like, yeah.
You are lucky.
Too.
Your kids, I think, are really, I think they're very mature. You've done a great job. My kids wouldn't know. Well, they're little. They wouldn't know.
They're little.
They're like, I'm hungry. Oh, mommy's not here. But I think it really is important because, as like a single mom, you have to be available and present for your kids. So I think that's just amazing. Like I'm a homebody who doesn't want to leave the house. So I guess the kids are lucky in that way. It was always like, I want to give my kids the stay-at-home feeling of, but really it's no, where it just doesn't want to get dressed.
No, I really wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. Like if I could have, that would have been my thing. I would have been baking and sewing and projects.
Absolutely. No, totally. But the reality is that we need to have a little bit of something coming in on the side to make it work. And I think that OBM is definitely where it's at. I think we've spent some time reminiscing about the good old days. And my God, I mean, it's been so many years, but yet it feels like 5 seconds ago. But it's really interesting because I'm not a woo-woo person. I feel like I say this all the time, but I do really believe in fate and karma and, certain like lines crossing. I think our paths crossed again for a very good reason. And in my business, this was when I initially started to train online business managers. So when Tovi came into my business as an OBM full time, it was more about helping me build what would eventually become OBM School. So Tovi, since my memory sucks, I would love for you to share your experience of what it was like to come on the team at the beginning, because that was the time when the courses were really thriving. I mean, they're still really thriving, but the OBM trainings were just sort of in their infancy, but also very popular. COVID was in the picture. So there was a real boom with regard to people wanting to learn new skills online. So what was that like?
So when I came into your business, and it's crazy to think about what's happened in the past 4 something years, I came in and there was a business there. You had your team, you had your VA, your tech VA, your OBMs, your copywriter, your dev guy, your Facebook ads people, everything was there. And the goal when I came in was kind of to take you out of all the things.
Being my OBM.
Right. Just basically being your OBM. I think the way that you positioned it is I need a right hand. And I was like, okay, that I can do. The courses were running smoothly. They were, doing what they were supposed to do and helping people the way that you wanted to help them. When I came in, you had a fully functional team. And when I came in, it was about managing that part. And everybody on the team had their thing. You had a VA that was doing the customer service. You had a VA that was doing the tech stuff. There was the developer who knew all the bits and pieces and what needed to happen on the back end. So the first few months, it was really about understanding what you were doing with them, what they were doing, and how to improve things. So like we say, like the first 3 months, you're just kind of getting your bearings. And so I think that that was the amount of time. And then at that point, I was like, okay, I'm good. You don't have to be on every meeting. You don't have to be doing all the things. You don't have to be doing all the, checking that everyone's doing their tasks. And then I don't know if it was 3 months in or 6 months in. At one point,
it was 3 months in.
It was 3 months in.
I remember. It was exactly, ironically, because as OBMs, we're all about like 90-day planning. At the 90-day mark, the shit hit the fan, basically.
It was crazy.
It was crazy. So I don't often talk about this for obvious reasons, but I had what I thought was a really solid relationship with someone who had been mentoring me for many, many years, and somebody who I think I trusted as a strategic partner in my business. So her and I had been crafting programs for OBMs together, and now it's COVID. Things are kind of booming, and, the online space is a little bit of a madhouse, I would say, without cussing. And then that relationship for me kind of dissolved overnight. And it was very, very upsetting for me, both on a professional and on a personal level, because that was somebody who had mentored me for many years, who I had built things together with in the online space. And suddenly our relationship was no more. But I was really thankful, because I do believe that everything happens for a reason. And had I not brought you on the team 3 months earlier, I don't think I would have been able to keep myself afloat from a management perspective of my own business, because I was discombobulated. I was hurt. I was offended. I was, all the things there. But what I really needed was somebody solid in my business who could continue cranking out those wheels and making sure the team needed to be doing what they were doing while I regrouped and started to get things moving. And it really sparked a creativity in me where I could now focus on my vision for OBM School. And then I think that you coming into the business was a catalyst for the things to come, because one of the things I did want to mention today was that all businesses pivot. All businesses have good days and bad days. Like, it's never a straight path forward. So when Tovi came onto my team, yes, the shit hit the fan. Yes, we needed to regroup. But did I have an amazing partner and still have an amazing partner to do that with? And if you weren't on my team then, I think I would have just folded up and crawled under some rock somewhere to, throw my hands up and be like, I'm done, guys. I'm done. I can't take this anymore. It's too much pressure. But instead, we were able to bring it all back together, create an incredible OBM training, our OBM accreditation inside of OBM School that we continue to put all of our resources and energy into to make sure that we have the best OBM programs inside of OBM School. So it's been a crazy ride. I was like, and
then just on the side, a couple of months later, our tech VA, who knew the business inside out and back and forth, was bought out by the other client that she had been working for, because we had been working with her in an agency. So it wasn't even her choice whether or not to leave. She just had to, she was like, well, this client bought me out. This is where I'm going. So we lost that support. And then there were a bunch of shifts that needed to happen. But I think something that, from my perspective, when this all happened, and a partnership like the one that you had, to me, was almost like a marriage. It had been maybe 7 years since my divorce, but I was like, go through it, Sarah, because it's a big adjustment and it's a big thing to go through. And what I could bring to that by the end of the table is it's just shifting your perspective of how your life, business, whatever is running now. And even to the point where it's funny with the whole 90-day thing, because another thing that we always tell people is don't change anything in the first 90 days. You have ideas, jot them down and keep them to yourself. So when this all happened and you were devastated, as you should be, in my mind, I was like, okay, when she's done with the devastation, or when she's ready for this, I had seen a lot of holes that we could fill, but I was limited in what I could say because,
and thank God you didn't change
on anyone's toes. So we were able to really start from scratch, and what an amazing time to start from scratch because so much had changed.
Everything happens for a reason. And I think this really goes to show something that I find is just a reality is like, there's never a good time for anything, right? Like it couldn't have been a worse time. And yet out of all the inconveniences came the most perfectly aligned new phase of the business that, to be honest, I think I was blocking that evolution from happening naturally because I think a lot of us behind the scenes, quote unquote, online support professionals, like we're not visionary. Like I never looked at myself as a visionary entrepreneur. Yeah, I had a vision for my business and for my agency, but I don't think it was like revolutionary or unique. And now I'm in a position where I have this opportunity to like make these incredible programs and have them be all belonging to OBM School and not having to create content and resources for anybody else or build somebody else's business. I could just focus on building my own because in that relationship, I was very much focused on building someone else's business as a behind the scenes OBM. Like that's my MO, that is my default. So when you came on the team, I was sort of floundering in a way, but I really feel like I couldn't have manifested a better partner to come into my business at that time. And it's so funny because I never even thought about your divorce and how it related to my divorce, not from my partner, but from my business partner, and how your experience so much channeled into like what I was going through at the time and how appropriate and how magnificent that was, because I don't think I could have really done it with anybody else. I don't know where I would be today. I don't know where I would have. I don't know where I would be today. And also it's so funny because when I was reaching out to you and I remember feeling like I needed you on the team 100%, but then there was this other Sarah limiting belief being like, Sarah, can you really not even afford to bring this person on, but do you have the leadership to have this person be? There were so many like limiting beliefs that I had about, do I deserve this? Like all the things. So I'm really glad that despite the limiting belief and the doubt in my own ability to make money and to keep the team together and to, all the things, that I really was at the end able to make the right decision and to bring you on the team, because I was like, I don't know.
There were quite a few moments where it was like,
yeah, where I was like, oh, like
maybe yes, maybe no, maybe
my
no.
inexperience is showing, or, like some of the skills that, like some of my leadership skills that maybe aren't so refined are like rearing their ugly head. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for this, but I'm glad that I took the leap of faith, because I think I really needed to do that at the time. And had I not, who knows where OBMs would be right now, right?
We don't have to worry about that.
Right.
It's all good. And even with that, and just to, kind of maybe go into like what that looked like, because I think it took 2 years until we really understood, we're always refining current programs, creating new programs, but specifically with the accreditation, where it was like we were able to just regroup and be like, what do people really need? And be able to listen to our students. I think that that's one of the most important things that we do in the business, is that we have ideas, we do them, and then we see how it goes and listen to the feedback. So we think that XYZ is going to be so transformative, and it's not. Mm-hmm. And people say to us, like, what we really need is ABC. We're like, all right. On it. Yeah. Let's do it. Mm-hmm. So I think it took us a good couple of years. And, even within the program, like when we started it, it contained this amount of information. Then it was like, we're missing this. So we added that on, and we added that on, and this, and the mentors and the support and the extra calls and the calls that didn't make any sense to keep, and just being able to do that and continue to provide what our students need. And now, keep your eyes out what business owners need.
It's been quite a journey, and we've been working together for a while. And I think you've seen the business through so many iterations. But I think, yes, being able to take those 2 years and almost go back to the drawing board and completely re-script the OBM certification program and make our accreditation the best program in the market, because we're listening to our students, we're providing practical support, we've got the mentors, we've got the projects, we've got the credentials, and it's been crazy. So let's pivot a little bit here because we've sort of talked a lot about, I guess, our origin story, you and I, but I think we need to speak a little bit more about what it really looks like on a day-to-day in the business, being the OBM inside of the OBM school and also working alongside other OBMs inside of the OBM school.
So even within that question, there have been changes because there were years where I was the only OBM for your company, and now we actually have another OBM that's working, and I'm able to hand off a lot of my stuff and be more alongside you with the vision of the company, both the agency and the school. So, there's been a lot of changes, but at this point, we're at a place where I just feel very fortunate that we have such a solid team. And what I will say to the team is what I think one of the biggest accomplishments that I think your company has to offer is that there's not one person on the team that doesn't truly care. And I think that that's, as cheesy as it sounds, and I say this for myself and I say it for everyone on the team that I speak to, everybody cares not only about your business succeeding, but about the success of the people that we work with. And that is a game changer that you cannot buy, that you cannot put into a course. That comes from the root of the company and very much from you.
I think that our leadership style, I think you are great in leading the team in that way. And also, I think our company culture, if I do toot our own horn, our company culture really attracts that kind of person who is very down to earth and really is heart of service through and through, like many of us are, but truly care about the welfare and success of others. And we really work together as a team. And I think being on so many other people's teams over the year and seeing so many weird things and so many exciting things and interesting things, the thing that I know to be true is that when you have a small team, 10 and under, kind of thing, or 5 and under, 5 people and under, they have to be A players, people who care, people who do the work, people who say what they're going to say and do what they do and all that stuff. Because otherwise, it's very easy to see where people are underperforming and it just derails the whole mojo of the team. And I've seen it in a lot of teams over the years of like, that person who isn't aligned with the company culture is really kind of messing up their chemistry, their team chemistry.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So Tovi, tell me a little bit about what a typical day looks like of you working inside of our business.
Well, every day I kind of built my schedule in a way where different days have different focus. And because we're in Israel, our schedule is a little different. We work Sundays to Thursdays. So Sunday, when everything's quiet elsewhere, is my day that I come on and I take a look at the project management tool, and I look at mostly making sure that the team has everything that they need to do their tasks when they come on Monday for the rest of the week. So I'm looking at their time logs. What have they completed last week? How much time was spent on it? Was there more time needed for a project than I had anticipated? And if so, are there adjustments that need to happen in the upcoming week to be able to allocate the right resources with the right people? So that's, one of the big things that happens on Sunday in preparation for Monday and the week ahead. I'm also looking at metrics. I take a look at what happened the week before, where we're at, if there's anything that needs fixing, if, this is always a good indication if there's a glitch somewhere that needs some support or a look into. And I kind of just make sure that my schedule is okay, that, I take a look ahead at the week ahead for myself and for the rest of the team. I take a look at, any feedback that the mentors have given, that any of the students that might need attention. So I'm kind of just putting everything in the right place. I don't work a full day on Sunday. And in fact, I take some Sundays off if and when I can. But that's what my Sunday looks like. Monday and Tuesday are my meeting days. It's nonstop meetings between the team members and us. And it's also when I schedule any meetings with anyone who needs within our students or anything like that. And those are a lot of meetings, which means there's a lot of action items that need to go into the project management tool from there. So that's, Monday and Tuesday. And then alongside that, there's the customer care. There's the regular stuff that has to happen every day regardless, checking the inboxes, checking any messages from the different social channels, checking messages from the team, being able to be on to support all these different things. But Monday and Tuesday, I've built my schedule early afternoon to evening. so that I have my mornings to do my errands and things like that. And then the afternoon to the evening, I'm busy with our team and with our clients, also within the agency. I have meetings with those clients, usually Tuesdays. So it's a very heavy.
Mondays and Tuesdays are a shit show for us because
I was gonna say interactive, but
I know. I'm like, it's those days where like you got to put your face on, you got to show up. So yeah, Mondays and Tuesdays, I think are more of I mean, there is a lot of internal stuff, but for us, I think it's a lot of external showing up as well.
A lot of that. And then Wednesdays are my SOP days, my systems day.
Wednesday's
right?
the day where I'm not allowed to talk to Tovi. She's like, don't bother me. I am. Because again, when you're creating SOPs and working on the systems in the business, it requires an extra amount of brain cells and a very dedicated 2 or 3 hours of time where you're uninterrupted by the other random things happening in the business.
And because SOPs always need to be updated and things always need to be looked at. And I find, especially as we grow the team, and particularly when we brought on an OBM to support me, where I was like creating SOPs on the things that I was doing. And as I was doing them, I was like, this could be done better. Like, I was just doing it because that's how I do it, but I wasn't giving it the thought that it needed in terms of how to be more efficient or how to be an easier process. So Wednesdays are very much centered around not only SOPs, but just in general systems. So again, like if we have a new thing coming up or if we have a workshop coming up, something like that. So Wednesdays, when I'm creating all the assets and making sure that the developer has what he needs and that the writer has what she needs and that the VA has what she needs and everybody just has what they need for whatever new, not the actual assets, but the right projects. So it's a lot of, just making sure that the operations, the systems are all good. And then Thursdays is kind of like a wrap up. It's like final meetings for the week. I do sometimes run workshops or planning sessions. If I'm going to do them, I do them on Thursday because Monday and Tuesday, there's a certain point in meetings where my brain's just like, I'm done.
You flatline, you're like, oh,
no. And then we have the monthly things, right? We have our monthly meeting with the mentors. So we have a monthly meeting. So inside OBM School, we have 3 amazing mentors. They work directly with the students. And because the company has grown and the student body has grown, one of the things that we added on, which I think has been really great for our students, is this direct communication with a specific mentor. Yes. But how do we make sure that everything's okay? So we have a monthly call with the mentors where we go through who's in the programs and who's struggling and what kind of things they need and how everybody's doing within the program to make sure that they're following, the milestones to reach their goal of becoming accredited. So, there are monthly meetings like that. There's, all kinds of things like that. Those are also on Tuesdays. So it's part of the Tuesday interaction. Yes. And then Fridays, sometimes I hop on for a little bit, but Fridays is usually reserved for preparing for the weekend with my family. We do a pretty solid family
weekend
time. Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing how much we get done in a week, but I think because we have very much blocked out the days, as you mentioned, for specific things, and we have all of our meetings planned out in advance and are on the calendar with our internal and our external team members, including our mentors, our agency OBMs, our agency clients, because we do have matchmaking off the back end of our accreditation program for those OBMs who want to work inside of our agency. So there's a lot of different things that are happening, and we continue to very much grow in that way. So because this is a day in the life, and I think because it's really important for us to be very transparent about how we really operate as a team, I think it's really important to go into some of our own strategic planning sessions. And as most of you, if you're listening and you're in our programs or you've been watching my YouTube videos, you know that we're very, very big on strategic planning as OBMs. We teach it, but we also practice it inside of the business. And Tovi and I meet up quarterly in person. So because we're both in Israel, we can do that as well. So we recently had a planning session at a WeWork space in Haifa. Oh my God, it was Monday. It was earlier this week.
It was earlier
this week. So we took off a whole Monday to dedicate to strategic planning and being able to do that in person. And I know some of you guys might be able to do that with your clients, but it's fantastic, right, Tovi? Like, I think it's like where
Yeah,
the magic really happens. So let's speak a little bit about what happens inside of those strategic planning sessions, because depending on the time of year, it has a different flavor as well.
absolutely. When we meet in December, it's more of an annual session.
Right.
We're setting the goals for the upcoming quarters, not the upcoming months. So like when we meet in December, we're doing like the big rocks, which are like, what are the goals for Q1? What are the goals for Q2, Q3, Q4? So actually for our annual one, we've done overnight. So there's one day for planning for the year, and then there's one day for planning for the upcoming quarter, so
Right.
that we can kind of like do it all. So that's stage one. And then stage two is like when we do the quarterly planning for the upcoming quarter. So it's like, first of all, you're looking at what your original goals were. You're looking at what steps needed to happen to get to that goal. So if your goal for the end of Q1 is to bring on a new team member, then you have to actually think about what that means for the first month and the second month and the third month. The first month we're looking, the second month we are onboarding, the third month we're training. And you have to calculate that into your other goals, because onboarding and training is not
Time
always easy.
consuming. Yeah,
You
it's
need
time consuming.
time, you need patience. You need to not expect them to be able to understand everything from the get-go, even if your SOPs are perfect.
Yeah, and even if
There are
they're the most
always
intelligent service
And
support
even if
professional.
yeah, and this is to speak to either business owners looking to hire an OBM or OBMs that are working with business owners. This is one of, the biggest things that we see when we do the matchmaking, is that the expectations in those first 3 months need to be really, really clearly defined, because it's not an overnight magic thing.
Mhm.
So, we have our onboarding kind of mapped out very easily. But when you're thinking about bringing on new team members, so that's, to speak to that, if you're thinking about creating a new program or updating a course, and that's a goal for Q2, then, in month one, we need to be able to map out the course. And mapping out a course it's a whole thing. What goes in module one, module two, is the flow right? And then as we're mapping it out, it's like, actually, that belonged over here. This
Or do
makes more
we
sense
do
here.
some market research, or do we need to,
Right.
yeah, there's many different components.
So that's what the quarterly looks like. And of course, there's always, a nice meal, some wine.
Yes. A good time, because we always have a good time. And I think that's really important, because, you need to feel like we can get work done, but that we can also play a little bit and have a good laugh and have some fun. And
Yeah.
this is so important, because if you are working as an OBM with your clients, you really do need to have that quarterly strategic planning sessions, monthly plans for what's happening, so that expectations are clear. You can have clear boundary, so that when a client's like, oh, well, actually, I need to launch next week, you can say, actually, that's not on this plan. But if you want it to happen, we just need to obviously shift
Right.
800 million things, but it's about the client being aware.
That really speaks to what it means to be, because it's always funny, because you've said this, and I know our mentor, Julie, has said this all the time, that you're an excellent OBM until you're in your own business, and then you're your own like nightmare client. Said with all the love in my heart.
Oh, say it. Scream it from the rooftops. I know.
So like, if Sarah's like, actually, I think I want to move the podcast up, I'll be like, okay, so if we're going to do that, let's take a look at the launch plan. We have a spreadsheet with all the quarters lined up. Then we'll have to adjust this, and we'll have to move this, and we'll have to move that. Is that what you want to do? And then she's
I'm
like,
like, oh, no, 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 that's not it at all. And then everybody's happy again. That's how these
right.
work. Yeah, it's so funny. Even within OBM school, we're doing quarterly planning sessions with our OBMs, because
Yeah.
that just reminded me when you were saying that, is like, I think the faster you can view your own business as having merit as a business. And yeah, it's like easy for me to say, like, of course it's a business, right? But no, are you treating it like a business? Do you have your tasks in your project management tool? Are you considering your own strategic planning? Are you organized with your clients if you're running an agency and all of that stuff? So there's so many different things that go into planning and being proactive about planning for your own business.
And also being able to adjust if you need to, right? Because
Like we had
sometimes you
to.
plan and things.
Sometimes the shit hits the fan, and sometimes like business, we could not foresee the pandemic. We could not foresee, me breaking up with a business partner I had been working with for years, and
foresee our right-hand VA being bought out That was, I mean,
Oh, yeah,
I had to learn the entire back end of our CRM tool because I knew how CRM tools worked. I had my certificates and I was a hardcore HubSpot fan and certified HubSpot user. So I understood how CRMs worked, but like when our VA left and I was just like understanding all of the pieces, the tagging, the fields, what happens in which automation, where everything is talking to each other, that changed our entire month of work where I was like, this month I'm learning the entire back end of the
right,
system because our VA is leaving in a month and I don't know a lot.
right, right, right.
So there's, and that could, yes, it was all in our system's
Well,
fault.
yeah,
It
there
was
were a lot of
all
SOPs and,
that's
and
documented, but I had to take the time to learn it and to have her available for the, transfer of information. And it was,
another
an adjustment.
another insult to injury at that point in the business. But I
Yeah.
think what doesn't kill you makes you a hell of a lot stronger. And as we continue to refine the way that we run the accreditation, we just continue to improve it, from becoming CPD accredited to having our micro credentials with Credly to simulating a client experience to incorporating our mentors. Like it really is
Now moving on to
best.
like even training business owners how to work
Right.
with OBMs
Right.
so
And being able to match make, I think it is.
that they can really
Yeah.
take what we know works and run with it.
Yeah. It is amazing. And I feel so honored, really and truly. I mean, I can't even express it in words. I think you know my feeling here, but I'm just thankful every day that you came into my life back when, that we can continue to really change the lives of women. We do have some men in the program, but
We do have
mostly
someone in there,
women who are looking for freedom and flexibility and stability. And not all of us start off as entrepreneurs. I mean, we could probably a whole discussion for another time, but what kind of forces you into these days into entrepreneurship because you need the flexibility, you need the freedom, and we want meaning in our lives. So working with meaningful clients that are making an impact is huge. And it's been such a pleasure. And I always learn so much from you, Tovi. I think it's so important for me to mention, I talk a lot about how to find clients as an OBM and why it's really important to find somebody that aligns personally with how you operate as a human being. I jokingly say that I niche with my clients with the personality thing, but as somebody who's now bringing on their own OBM, I see how that's even more important because we get along human to human. Like there's like a level of respect, a level of camaraderie, a level of,
And
like I
there's
got
also
your back,
like,
you got my back.
and something that also like I'll just speak to like this relationship that, OBMs need to have with their clients, clients with their OBMs, and just building a team. So one of the things that we always joke about is like that I am like a very step by step, everything needs to line up. And, it's hard for me to sometimes come out of that. And something that I've learned from you is that in order for businesses to really grow, you need to have that kind of, messy action. I don't
Right.
do mess very well.
No, you
My closet is color
and
coordinated.
I'm like flying at the seat of my pants. And you're like, wait a second. This is not following the plan. And I'm like, no,
And I think,
we're going to
yeah,
find opportunity in the problems in our business.
yeah. So as much as it's important to align with your clients and align with your team and all of
Yeah.
that, and it's all wonderful. There's also something there with working with somebody who's going to call you out on your crap and who's going to say, you want to know what? It's never going to be perfect. We just have to try and do it. And okay, it'll be a little messy. And for me to be able to say to you, like, this is too messy. Like that's, that's not
Out of
happening.
my comfort zone, messy.
Or
Yeah. So yeah, you're very right, Tovi, because I think you need to have strong respect and camaraderie and understand each other's strengths and weaknesses, but you also really need to complement each other. And it's so funny. This wouldn't be a day in the life of an OBM without me mentioning that Tovi is hands down a better OBM than me. Has always been. She's more organized. I'm a little bit more chaotic. And again, we each bring our special sauce to the table as OBMs and with our clients. So it's so funny, but it's true, And now that I'm kind of like the client, I'm like, oh God, I'm that annoying client. Like those clients irritate me. They're all over the place. But we have good measures in place. And again, with the leadership piece, Tovi will tell me when my expectations are off or when I am, making certain choices in the business that don't line up with our goals. It's really easy to say to your client, I hear you on wanting to launch that new program tomorrow or yesterday, but when we go back to our goals that we set for this quarter, we're really more focused on refining what we already have or whatever that looks like. So having the metrics and having the goals, you're able to sort of reframe things for the client in a way that doesn't make you the bad guy. Like, don't shoot the messenger, but we said that we were going to do X, Y, and Z. So yes, it is very important to mention that you don't have to be the same person or have the same personality.
But you have to have the same goals. So like, or the same, values. Both of us are mothers, both of us,
Kids come first.
Kids always come first no matter what. And it doesn't have to be because of, a medical thing. It could just be like, I have my day with my kid today. I'm not available.
Right.
And that's it.
And that's it.
There's no question asked.
That's why we do this. Because if not, what would be
there are no emergencies here. I'm not a doctor. Like there's nothing. So the email is going to go out a little late. Okay.
Right. Nobody got hurt. Everything is still fine. We're all alive. 100%. Yeah, 100%. So we do really have the business and us have all the aligned values. And I think that's such an important ingredient. And of course, we can link in, the kinds of clients to work with as an OBM, but aligned values, revenue, and, solid business model are big pieces to look at for OBM material clients.
Absolutely.
So honestly, Tovi, we could go on all day long about
we could go on all day.
What it's like. And
I've got to get some work done.
You've got work to do. You've got work to do. It has been such a pleasure. So as we approach the final cohort for our OBM accreditation, our certification program for 2024, I would love to invite you guys to pop in an application. We're going to leave all the links below the video. It is your last chance to get an application in and join us for our high touch, top notch, best OBM certification out there program. All the details are in the description below. Tovi, it's been so great having you on. So for those of you who do apply and who do join us inside of the school, you will definitely come across Tovi and all of her wisdom. She runs our planning sessions and she is a big part of everything in the business, but especially of OBM School. Thank you for coming on, Tovi. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll see you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.